Something is building in the global economy. Something bigger than inflation, bigger than interest rates, bigger than any single recession. By 2026, the world is heading toward a moment that economists have quietly warned about for years. A moment where debt stops being a tool and becomes a threat. Most people have no idea how close we are, but the signs are everywhere. Debt levels are breaking records. Governments are borrowing faster than they can count. Central banks are running out of options. And the financial system, the one we trust to hold everything together, is stretched thinner than at any point in modern history. Today on Legacy of Money, we're pulling back the curtain on the coming global debt explosion. What makes 2026 such a critical turning point? And why this shift could reshape the world economy in ways most people are not prepared for. To understand what's coming, you have to understand what got us here. For decades, debt was cheap. It was the easiest solution to every political problem and every economic slowdown. When growth slowed, governments borrowed. When voters demanded more, governments borrowed. When crisis hit, governments borrowed even more. And for a long time, it worked. Interest rates were low, inflation was tame, and debt barely felt like debt at all. Then the world changed. The pandemic hit. Governments printed trillions. Central banks pushed interest rates to zero. And for a brief moment, it looked like money had no cost. It looked like we could borrow forever. But money always has a cost. It just arrives late. And in 2026, the bill is finally landing on the table. Here is the hard truth the world is about to face. Debt doesn't become dangerous when it is created. It becomes dangerous when interest rates rise. And right now, interest rates are the highest they've been in more than 20 years. That means every dollar borrowed in the last decade is suddenly heavier, more expensive, and harder to manage. The United States is paying more in interest on its debt than it spends on the military. Japan's public debt has grown so massive that even small shifts in rates threaten the entire budget. Europe is juggling energy shocks, aging populations, and debt loads that were never meant to survive high borrowing costs. China is fighting its own hidden debt crisis inside local governments and real estate giants. And emerging markets? Many of them are already underwater. Their debt payments outpace their national budgets. They borrow new money just to pay old interest. It's not sustainable. And they know it. This is where 2026 becomes the breaking point. Over the next 2 years, a giant wave of global debt will mature. Trillions of dollars borrowed during the era of near-zero rates must be refinanced at the new, painfully high rates. That shift alone is enough to trigger budget crises in multiple countries. Corporate bankruptcies across industries and pressure on currencies around the world. Because when debt costs rise, choices disappear. Countries lose flexibility. Governments delay investing in their people. Companies cut workers to survive. Families struggle with rising costs on everything from mortgages to credit cards. The entire system slows down and becomes more fragile. This is exactly how financial turning points begin, quietly, mathematically, and then suddenly. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. Debt is not just an economic issue. It's a power issue. The more a country owes, the less control it has. When governments hit their debt limits, they don't get to choose freely anymore. They answer to lenders, to markets, to central banks, and to institutions that operate far outside public view. We've seen this before: Greece in 2010, Argentina, repeatedly, Sri Lanka in 2022. Every one of these crises followed the same pattern. Debt grows, interest becomes unbearable, choices shrink, and sovereignty slips away piece by piece. The world is now entering that same structure, but on a global scale. The United States, Europe, China, Japan, the pillars of the world economy, are all carrying record debt at the exact same time. That has never happened in modern history, and 2026 is the moment when this system meets its limits. That does not mean collapse, but it does mean transformation. Financial orders shift when pressure builds. Trade alliances change. Currency power moves. New blocks rise as old ones weaken. And the countries that adapt fastest, that recognize the shift early, end up stronger on the other side. The ones that ignore it, don't. The real question isn't whether the world can handle this level of debt. The real question is who gets squeezed when everything tightens. Because the system doesn't protect everyone equally. It protects itself. When governments face higher interest costs, they don't cut debt, they cut services. When central banks fight inflation, they raise rates that make life harder for the average worker while preserving asset markets. When banks feel stressed, they get bailouts. When citizens feel stressed, they get lectures about responsibility. So the debt explosion of 2026 isn't just a story about budgets and interest rates. It's a story about power, priorities, and the future economic map of the world. And if you're watching this, you're already ahead of the curve. Because financial education is not just about numbers. It's about understanding how the system moves, who it protects, and how to protect yourself when the pressure rises. The next 2 years will reshape global finance. Not overnight. Not with a single crash. But through a series of shifts that quietly create a new economic reality. Some countries will emerge stronger, others won't. Some people will adapt. Others won't even notice what happened. But the storm is coming. And when it arrives, the people who understand what it means will have an advantage the rest of the world never sees coming. If this gave you a clearer way to see what's unfolding, subscribe to Legacy of Money, because the financial world is changing faster than ever. And we'll help you understand it before it hits your doorstep.